just preparing. Let's see. Maybe it starts with good evening.
It does.
Okay.
Like usually does.
Let's see. It does. Yeah, I can already see we are currently live. That's great. So what I can do is just tagging you. Let's see. And
Great.
we can start our
What
meeting.
I can do is just tagging you.
I can hear me myself. I can hear myself. I'm like a double. What
Yeah.
what I just done?
Yeah.
Hold on, let me just
Okay.
mute myself and we can start the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Super. Boom.
Great. Here we are.
Okay. I think I just need to tag you and I should be okay. There we go. Let me know if you got it and we're ready.
We were born ready, aren't we?
Yes, we are. Okay. So the purpose of tonight's live is to share a couple of experiences that are related to fear. So this is a conversation between Christian and I that has to do with how heartfelt certain experiences can be. It's less about teaching. It's more about connection and a couple of insights that maybe you, the viewer, will relate to our experiences. The first thing that crossed my mind, and I think this is a good thing to start with, it has to do with what we know about fear. And I know I said there is no teaching. It's just the fundamental thing about fear, that we are born with two instinctive fears. One it's about loud noises, and the other one, it has to do with fear of falling. Everything else, it's either conditioned, environmental, or is learned through our experiences. For example, fear of failure, fear of dark, rejection, and other social situations. So now that I've said that, everything that we'll talk about fear today, we'll be talking about the fear that has to do with our experiences, with our lenses and the way we view the world and the environment that we live in. So now I'm going to introduce Christian as well. So let's hear it. So let me switch for a change and ask you if you can share a couple of things about fear, and you can also come with a couple examples also from your work and personal.
Sure. Well, the first thing I would like to say that this conversation that we're having, right, is it's only due to the fact that I came to realize today that for the past couple of days I've been facilitating a small group of people, and I've been in contact with over 30 people that I've discovered most of them are willing and wanting to make a change, to grow, to make a switch to a better self, a better life, a better income. And it actually kind of broke my heart to see that most of them, right, they were insecure, they were not only fearful, but indecisive as well, lack of direction, and anything and everything that we have spoke about was based on fears. And that's what actually, came to my mind. Why don't we, have a humane conversation rather than a prescripted conversation about around this subject that is so I don't know, so much just overlooked. It's not touched enough, in my perspective, right? And most of the people, when they're talking about the fears, they don't even know how to deal with them, what to do with them, where they're coming from. And for
Yeah.
me, that is just I don't know, heartbreaking, to be fair, because we've all experienced different kind of fears in different moments in different areas of the life, and I don't know. I feel like it's not fair for us to live continuously with the fear that actually freezes us, blocks us, um, keeps us in a very small shell that we have, and we lack perspective. We lack, you know, a vision. We all have things that we would love to grow and do and build and be and have, right? But because of all these fears that we don't even know how to interpret them, right? We get into a place that we actually get stuck, literally, because of those fears.
Agreed.
And I'll give you an example. As I as I was telling you recently, I'm overseeing a program, part of a program basically, where we have mini sessions, right, where um, we just, you know, try uh, to see where people have most blockages, financially speaking, right? Um, and there was one particular woman that I spoke with, and you know, she had such a big fear of men, that whenever she signed up for that session, she something would have told her, right, inside that she should choose me, and she didn't. Instead of choosing me as her facilitator, right, she went into a random allocating program, right, and eventually she got to me again. She's told me about it, and she's told me that she's frightened about, you know, men in general,
Yeah.
only because she was vulnerable enough to open that up, created a space, right? So if you can see what she did, what she actually did there, right? She spoke about her fear rather than hiding behind it. The moment she did that, the most beautiful thing happened, right? She went into a deeper level of connection that she would have actually thought would be possible to have with a man. Because of that, right? She went online, she made a post about it, and she was very, very, you know, proud of her deeds, basically, right? And she was very right to do that because she just overcame one of her fears. And the moment she did that, she felt this sense of gratitude. And I hope we can touch a little bit on that as well, probably later on, because I personally believe that the level of gratitude that we cultivate in ourselves, right, has everything to do with the level of actions that we're going to be taking, regardless of those fears showing up or not.
Yeah, true.
And I'll give you another example, right? Just a little bit over a year ago, um, my fear of public speaking, right, for instance, which is still present, right, in different way because I didn't work on it. Obviously, I haven't created a space where I can go publicly to speak, but we could probably call this a public place as well, right? So obviously, there's some anxiety, some insecurity, some scarcity back there. But now, just connecting to you, man to man, right, human to human, rather than having a script or
Yes.
something, all that actually vanishes. So just a little over a year now, I would fear this context.
I see.
Whereas now I'm looking at it with so much gratefulness. Not only because the people are able to tune in and, take something probably valuable for them. They might get some value, they might not, which is fine, right? But see, having a different perspective rather than being stuck in the fear, attached to the gratitude that you can, feel and express towards the things that, you were not able to do in the past. You weren't seeing yourself doing in the past. And now you're actually living to do that. It completely changes everything. So even if I'm still anxious about, talking publicly like we're doing now, right?
Yeah.
The fact that I can bring over the gratitude of the fact that what I have been last year has nothing to do with what I am today. Therefore, doesn't mean I'm being, exaggerating myself, because I'm not in the place I'm yet want to be. But I can still be grateful for the fact that I'm not where I used to be last year.
I see.
So that level of gratitude that you can bring in your life, for instance, right? Just by doing that, and I'm pretty sure we all have or should have, right? Things that we can be grateful for. We all have things that, we can put our attention on and really be grateful for. Because our mind is so stuck with what we don't have that we forget what we have. We're in a continuous case of, I want this, I want that, and the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, right? And I can see that even in my son, right? Even in a video game, you play a video game for years and years and years, for instance, right?
Yeah.
And you're still craving to get to that level.
Yeah.
And you forget about, the effort, the time, the resources that you actually have put to come to that level that you are right now.
Forevermore, no?
Yeah. So to me, for instance, if I were to be honest about, the way I feel fear, and the way I dance with fear, or I grow with fear, right, would be the gratitude that I can, stop for a minute and really intentionally putting my attention towards something that I can truly feel that gratefulness.
I understand. One key thing that I'll say I'm taking from what you said is the fact that the main reason for now, for example, now you're not afraid of public speaking, it has to do with the fact that you're talking to another person. You connect
I
to the other
am.
person. So therefore, what I'm hearing is that the action precedes confidence. In order to get confidence, you first have to act, not get the confidence and then acting.
Exactly. So the moment you create this, non-negotiable space where you have to do it, right?
Yeah.
You're just going to do it. Because the funny thing, or the paradoxical thing, I would say, is fear shows up before you trying to make a change, before you trying to better yourself, before you going for that million, before you going for that job, right? Although the fear still comes up when you actually go for it as well. And that is, for me, right? That is the tiny little window where you can actually decide whether you stay with the fear before you actually go, or you're still going to have the fear when you're going to go for it.
Yeah. You're afraid and do it anyway.
Well, yes, but that would be, something like fake it till you make it, which is not something that I live by or believe in, right? You just have to find that safe space in the safe environment where you can actually be, even if you're afraid of a new space, right? A new environment, new people, and on and on.
Yeah.
You can still feel that level of security that one place can give you more than another place.
In a word or in a sentence will be seek those places that celebrate you or you feel celebrated.
Let me ask you this: where does the fear come from? You just touched the base with, right, our fundamental needs and fears. Actually, no, sorry. You told me about the fundamental fears that we're born with, correct?
Yeah, the biological one.
Right. But what about the fundamental needs?
Fundamental needs.
Yeah.
We also born with some fundamental needs. That's by default there. We do have the human, the 6 human needs.
Right, which is shelter, affection, right? Being contained, right? Part of the group.
Feeling safe, seeking connection, wanting to contribute and growth. Yeah, exactly, growth.
Okay, cool.
So
now touching the base with those fundamental needs, right? Yeah. Where would you say the fear comes from?
If we're referring to non-biological fear, I would say it comes from the social construct, our experiences that we've been through. It has to do with the cultural norms. Whatever we see or whatever happened to us, we store that information, and later on, we use it as a protective mechanism.
Right. So what happens to a child, right, who grows into a house that, let's just say, the parents are always busy, right? They're at work, using a nanny, right? They have a good life. It's not, let's not bring in discussion, right?
Yeah.
The dysfunctional families, right, where the violence, either verbal, physical, are present, right?
Yeah.
Let's just talk about, a regular family, let's say, where, they have all the needs. Parents are always busy, constantly gone from home, right? Leave the kids with nanny, leave the kids in school, right? So they go out to provide, right? They care for the kids. Where do you think that most fear, or the most fears, yeah, exactly, are actually formed over there?
One of it, I think, based on what you just said, so we have a kid that's in care of someone else, but not of the primary givers, that in some aspects they should be primary givers, but they are busy with other bits like providing and so on, but not rather be with the person, with the kid there as the kid grows up. One of the things could be that the kid is not important enough. So you could grow with the perception of the fact that it doesn't matter. The kid is not important enough to mom and daddy. So therefore, one of the possibility could be that the kid now will go and seek unconsciously validation or form of affection from somewhere else. I'm not saying the kid didn't get it, because that's debatable based on perception. So one of the fear could be that I'm not good enough. I am never good enough. Exactly. So therefore, I need to prove myself over and over again in order to get that validation, because I'm trying in a way to replicate that maybe one day mommy and daddy will love me again, because I perceived I was not loved. Whatever love is being perceived by the kid.
It's not necessarily the love. I would say it's the attachment.
No wonder we have 4 attachment styles.
Right. The level of attachment that we have and develop, or lack
of, yeah.
in relationship with our parents, right, creates most fears, as you said. Fear of not being good enough, fear of being rejected, unwelcomed, right, unwanted.
Yeah.
Therefore, what am I going to do? I'm going to develop different strategies where as a kid, right, I'm going to work for my parents, right? So I'm going to be in the working field of finding strategies. How can I actually be seen? How can I actually be heard? How can I actually can connect with them, right? What is going on in my system that is now falling apart from the moment they, brought this nanny or sent to the kindergarten? Most of the people, and this is the case of my son as well. And I can tell you, although we had like a long conversation, not only once, multiple times with him before he actually went to the kindergarten, for instance, right? Just because we were trying to prepare his mind, right, for
Yeah.
him to have a perspective of the things, how the things are going to unfold. You would think, or you would say probably that, oh well, kids doesn't have the capacity. They lack capacity of understanding. Well, guess me, they do. They don't actually. They
Well, to
do
some
have the
degree, they
capacity.
do, and they
Yes,
don't. Depends what we're referring to.
exactly. So although we have explained how the things are gonna go, right? The first day when we took him away,
Yeah.
whatever the perception was, he just didn't want it to break, right? That attachment. So for him was actually a threat. He perceived any kid could perceive like a threat in any form of distancing the kid from the parents.
That
And
was me.
now the 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 fun part begins, right? And I'm calling that quote the fun part because that's a very emotional, intense moment for that child where he creates what? Roots for new strategies, new
Yeah.
fears, new different perceptions, beliefs, right? That's where you actually believe of yourself that you are either wanted or unwanted.
Exactly. One of the fundamental belief to build on what you just said, talking about kids, I have like a short memory when I was around 5 years old and I was sent to kindergarten and my parents were taking me from home. We were just living like 2 minutes from the kindergarten. And I was placed in the arm of the teacher back then, the educator. I remember that, well, with the mind that I have now, the perception I had there was that fundamentally something was wrong with me. My mom was giving me away in a stranger's arms, and I was crying and beating this lady, saying, "I don't want to be here. I want to be back and belong with them."
Yeah.
There could be some faults of the way my parents were communicating or whatever we want to place it. I don't want to place it on them. That they did the best they could with what they had.
Yeah.
But I do remember that as a kid, I felt like they're giving me away. I was with them almost 24/7, and now suddenly
And then
you're
you're
sending
not.
me away, and I don't understand the concept, and I was not
Yeah.
fully aware of what was going on. So I wanted to run away.
Yeah.
So I could see how that developed in my psyche, and at times I can still see myself as either not necessarily being broken or something's wrong with me, but I feel like in a way something's something's off in a sense. I question at times myself. I'm like, okay, that person reacted in a way, and I'm using that example, that memory that I formed, well, almost 25 years ago, as an example, and I build on it. And whenever something has happened, I recall it. I go back to the same place. Okay, I'm being given away. So if people don't want me, or they might disagree with me, or they say go away, it reminds me of the same thing that has happened. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's the story and the belief I created in that moment, right? And every
Yeah.
time I get through something remotely similar, I bring it to life. Well, I worked a lot towards overcoming it. I don't feel the same now, but at the
Right.
beginning it was crazy when I discovered that. because that
Mm.
impacted my relationship. Well, the
Exactly
intimate
that.
relationship, the relationship I had with self, the relationship I had with my parents, the relationship I had with my best friends. They were pressing the buttons, and I felt like I'm the wrong one in many ways. Well, I'm the common denominator, but I had to put the work and
Exactly.
to work with that fear, thinking that fundamentally something's wrong with me. And imagine that's silly when you think in some aspects about it, because that was created over 25 years ago. And I look at it as I'm being given away. And that could, again, activate the fear of rejection, which in many
So,
aspects can still
so
happen.
would you agree that if you would have not done the work, you would have been still unconscious of what the source of this fear of not being good enough, not being pretty enough, not being uh, fitable enough within a certain group would still be so present? So you would be walking unaware of what the source of that might be.
There's two aspects here. One, I think I will be crippled with fear right now. It's almost like you have a system when you keep pouring, but you don't do anything with it. It just
Yeah.
stays there. It stinks after a while. It explodes. It overflows.
Yeah.
So that's one. And the other thing is, I don't think I will be here if talking to you live in this aspect, and also teaching others how to look after their mental and physical well-being. I will not be able to develop tools and practices to assist others where the challenges be that face-to-face or online. And
Exactly.
I wouldn't not have the relationship I have with self right now. I don't think
Yeah.
I would have met you if I would have
Yeah,
these
yeah, of course,
fears.
of course. So because the previous topic, right, would you know bring up some questions like, okay, so what are you saying that if we take our kids to the kindergarten, or we give them to daycare, or we bring a nanny or whatever, is it wrong? No, it's not. But what we can actually do, right, is to work with ourselves before, because as you said, kids lack capacity of prefrontal cortex to be used, right? Your conscious mind,
The reasoning, in a sense, which is developed
right?
around mid-20s.
But they have an understanding, however, of the levels of energy, the vibration in the house.
True.
Just a couple of days ago, I saved the video where I want to be making, reaction video to it, right? Where people film their kids asking them to stop an activity. Don't do that, for instance, right? And they're using this kind parenting, whatever, right, method. Please don't do that, darling. Please leave that alone. Please don't go there. Don't put your finger in there. Please, 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 right? The kid obviously doesn't react. So now, because the parent doesn't get the reaction he actually wants, right? Because initially, what he wants, the parent, want to restrain an area where the kid might or might not, right, want them to go.
Yeah.
But the moment they go off these parenting methods, whatever, and they start shouting, right, you can instantly see the kid body actually freezing, contracting, right? It goes into contraction. And I'm going to do that video because it's so interesting. Anyway, so they've they feel, understand vibration, emotion, and state of being,
Yeah.
just like your pet does.
They feel your state, basically.
Exactly. So what if your state of being is a chaotic lifestyle where you need to run, I don't know, 2 jobs, for instance, right? For you to be able to provide for the kid. Is there wrong for you to actually get a nanny or get some help or put the kid in the daycare? No, it's not. But depending on the level of self-understanding, self-compassion, self-awareness, right, you will be talking and connecting to that child through your own emotions, through your own state. The most situations that I've seen where kids are actually not only listening but curious and willing, right, to do what a parent actually asks them, right, were a state of non-judgment, were a state of self, respect, self-awareness, without a hidden agenda, where you actually, want whatever's good for your kid because it's natural, but you don't impose it. Because what you actually do when you tell a kid, no, don't go there, right? Don't put your hand there, you're going to burn. Obviously, you're not going to let him burn his hand, right? But what would you do in that scenario?
I think, well, to give you a more not involving answer, I'll be doing exactly what I could with the mindset I have in that specific moment.
Okay,
I
fair.
will
So
know
right now,
specifically what I will do per se, but if I were to be in that moment, then I'll assess the situation and find, well, with the mindset that I have now, I'll
yeah,
find a win-win. In between, I'll set a couple of boundaries, even though maybe the kid's not aware of them, because
right.
I am the one with the forebrain, or I like to think so. And
So
one,
what?
also explain it in a way that the kid will understand, because at times we don't do so.
Okay,
We just cut the
kids.
kid short and saying, it's like me, I say so, bye.
Yeah, but kids don't understand you, right? Consciously.
Even
Okay.
Zoom agrees.
Oh yeah. No, it's the whatever. So kids don't understand you, therefore you can't communicate like that,
True,
right?
you need
There's
to
a
find a
communication
common,
barrier.
exactly, a
Okay,
common
great.
ground. Speak.
Emotionally, energetically, he's not going to understand what you're trying to tell him, that you're trying to,
Yeah.
protect him from an imminent danger where he's going to burn his hand, right? So what is the other option? Is there another option?
From where I stand now, if I think of myself, if I have that capacity or awareness, if I don't know how to handle this,
Hmm?
I know for a fact that there is people from the outside that can either assist me and the kid together to get this right. So I either personally go and work a little bit on the way that I am and try to figure this out. And if I can, as I said, I'd either fix myself, work on myself, or either find ways into give that to the kid and be that, as you said, providing someone else to look after the
So,
kid.
okay, so you would still let him burn his hand on the stove?
I moved a long time from the candle. I
Right.
apologize.
What if,
Sometimes it could. That could be a tiny lesson. We do learn through
right?
our experiences.
But obviously you don't want, consciously, you don't want your kid to get his hand burned, right?
God
So
no, exactly.
what if, for instance, instead of imposing, right, you come down to his level, like kneel next to him, for instance, right? And you try to understand his level of curiosity instead of killing it, right? Kids are curious. They develop through curiosity, right? What else?
The other thing is, I will take the finger. I know this will go live. And I get it as close as I can to the flame to make the kid
Right.
aware that there is a heat source. And the closer
So
you get, you can get burned.
there we go. So you haven't rejected his curiosity. You fulfilled his curiosity. You supported him
Yeah.
within his curiosity, right? Obviously, right, he's going to get the heat touching his finger, his hand, whatever, not to the extent where he actually puts his hand on it.
Yeah.
Whatever the other imminent danger is, right? For instance, um, um, some people tend to, shout at the kids, "Oh, stop climbing that tree! You're gonna fall. You're gonna break your neck. Whatever." Right? But if they're not gonna, because that's something that I've actually had to swallow a very, very hard pill from one of my very dear therapists a few years back,
Yeah.
when she's told me, regardless how much we're going to be trying to protect our kids,
Hmm.
we're never going to be successful.
They don't belong to you anyway. They belong to the world.
Yeah. So the moment we, going back to the fear, right?
Yeah.
The moment we get in that fear state towards whatever might happen to the kid, right? It's our own projection. But let's remember, as you said, they're their own individuals. And whatever we perceive as danger for them might be fun.
True as well.
So give me an example of one of your fears, because I want to hear about when was a moment for you that you feared something, and also tell me, what do you actually think? Is fear good or bad?
Okay.
What is
First question first. One thing that I like the most about fears is that it helps us to see who we are for real, not what we like to think we are. And I call this identity gap. So the fear, it's shaking us in ways, and it reminds us that this is our limitations. This is what we are. This is what challenges us. And at times we're not aware of that unless the fear comes. And on this, I'll answer the second question with this sentence. I don't think fear is good or bad in the sense of the morality, good or bad. I think it's
yeah,
helpful in some ways. Most often is helpful. It tells us something. And to answer the first question, I think one of the events that scared me the most, it has to do with relationships. I think
okay,
that there is a lot of things I gotta learn. And this was a romantic relationship. And it had to do with the fact that when I was little, as I said, this fear was about a fear that a relationship, once you like someone and your relationship with someone, that relationship must last. Under any circumstances, that relationship must last. I
so there
learned
was a
that.
fantasy.
I learned that from my parents. I learned that through the reading the books. I learned that seeing the magazines, long-lasting relationships. So I thought that if I enter one, I'll be one of those successful people that will have a long-term relationship. So I got into one. That was almost like 7 years ago, and that was like one of the biggest fear. And what has happened
Right.
is I could see that the relationship was in some ways not working for us, both for myself and the partner. And what I learned is that no matter what, you find ways to manipulate, lie, outsource yourself. You be the fire in the relationship in any form. You got a way. You need to find a way to maintain this relationship to keep it. It's almost like everything is crumbling, and you take sellotape and you go around and around it just to keep it
Yep.
alive.
Yep.
And the fear was so big. I remember that I was petrified. The idea of this person leaving me, it left me petrified. I will lie, manipulate in the sense of I will have things to say, and I would not say it because I was afraid if I am willing to say something, to be authentic or genuine about what I'm feeling or thinking, that would be dismissed. And that was hard for me. So, right, that was a fear. And this is not a biological fear. That was a fear I learned in a social context.
Exactly. So a projected fear from an area, from a space where you actually saw or referred yourself to a system, right?
Yeah.
What a successful relationship will be like,
Yeah. How
look
does it look
like.
like? Yes, I had a model, I'll say. It was a cultural
Right.
influence for sure. That was what people were selling all around me as
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
if you gotta be in a relationship, and no matter how fucked up the relationship is, you gotta
Yep.
fake it and pretend that things are fine. And they were not fine.
Yeah.
And
True.
that got me to the point, because talking about unlocking the gems, right? The treasures behind our fears.
Yeah.
What have I learned from that fear that I had then? I learned a couple of things while that situation happened, which lasted a couple of years. and I learned things after that event has ended. One of the things that has helped me, though the fear helped me, as I said, I found it helpful, was the fact that it showed me what's real per se, what happens between human interactions versus a fantasy that was sold to me. And guess what? I bought it. I bought it big time.
Because it's
So
a
that was one
shiny
of
thing.
yeah. Get the relationship. I didn't know per se how the relationship is. So that was in a way terrible to me. That basically shattered my universe. I was quite young.
Yeah.
I'm still young now anyway. So yeah, that was one of the things. It destroyed my fantasy. That helped
But
me.
tell me please, how? That's what I'm interested about. Of the how did you got through it? How did you
Okay,
got to see those? Was there a
super.
person? Was there?
How did I get after the event has ended, the relationship itself? As I said, fear has helped me to give me some clarity on my limiting programs, the belief, the self-talk I had with myself. So it also pushed me to become more creative and adjust myself. And how did I do that per se? One thing first, I think I sat with myself for at least 3-4 months. I was crying. I was, I remember I was still asking that I want this specific shiny person in my life and so on. And after a while, I had to come to terms that that relationship is not like that. Does not what helps me, or at least that's not going to go anywhere because it's two for tango. In my case, I was alone, just myself. And what I've done there, I remember it was through education that the things have changed.
Okay.
How? I decided rather than focus on a person and find solutions in one person, to
May
go
I?
and bring it back to myself. Yeah, go for it.
So you said through education, right? I'm only interrupting you just because of the time that we get to an end. So, um,
Please.
so you said through education. Okay, who's giving you that education? Did you got it from a book? Did you got it from a video? Did you got it from a person? Did you got it from a group of people?
Okay. Initially, after I settled a bit down, that was through a bit of self-reflection. I
Right.
start to ask, what is going on? So that was the
Okay, so
fundamental thing, walking and thinking.
okay,
Then I thought I can't contend this on my own. I had to
right.
find a way to be able to share it, to talk about it. So that
Right.
has,
So
so in
you
my
went from a
case,
stage
yeah,
you went from a stage of solitude
yes.
into another context of what?
The context that has happened there, it was that I wanted to understand more about what's with all these human interactions and
Great,
relationship.
great.
So I went for a school that has had to do with neuroscience school that I've done. And then I
Wow.
learned all this programming and well, it was better for me to get it from a place of fundamentally how we function rather than me listen to the social constructs, which
So
most of the times can be
I
unhelpful.
get it. I get it. It's fine, and I'm glad for you. The answer that I'm looking for, right,
Okay.
is how did you got through that fear? I get it. Through education,
Yeah.
solitude, right? Then going back to education, the form of education you were seeking for, right, happened to be a physical form, right? You just said you were going to a school. What happens when you go to a school? What do you get most of? Or what do you come in contact with? Books?
Oh, I follow. Well, this was an
So
online
was it
school.
people? Was
There
it
were
people?
people. I know what you're
Right.
trying. You're steering me towards
So
a specific answer. Okay, that helps. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you went from solitude into connection.
Yeah.
Isn't that right?
Yeah.
So
And I got connection and I got my answers as well.
right. So in connection with someone that you now not don't fear, right? But more so, you can actually feel secure around. you can do what? You can open up.
Yeah,
You can
that
be
was the case. Yeah,
vulnerable. Yeah.
true
So
as well.
when you are vulnerable, right, about your fears and your emotions, right, what happens there? Doesn't it create that, I don't know, expanded field where you can not only be safe, not only can talk about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
but truly look into the mirror that the other person holds for you?
Yes.
Because out of fear, we do what? It's his fault. That son of a bitch.
Oh
He's
yeah, yeah,
done
yeah.
it.
We blame
I'm always
others.
right. Okay.
Agreed. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. So then when we do that, what we actually do is what? We keep and preserve and sustain our fears. We never let them go because we
Yes.
put them on others. It's their fault.
We're just perpetuating a cycle.
Exactly.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. So that was my case also. I had to open up. I had to talk about my shortcomings. I had to talk about the way I was viewing the world. And then through the work that I've done, then I got to be here. And in the end, see how that served me. I would not be here if I wouldn't have been in that kind of relationship. And I needed
So
that.
so
At
now
least what I come.
doesn't it all, in order to conclude it, doesn't it actually all comes back to connection? Doesn't
Yes.
it all comes back to the attachment that we all crave, and we've been, you know,
It goes back to, I think, two fundamental human needs, the connection and safety. Because if I'm feeling safe and I'm creating, well, I establish a bond of connection, then I'll be able to grow from there.
right?
I'll be able to
Because
trust the person.
the attachment that I've been denied through different forms when I was a young baby actually taught me whatever you said, right? Those kind of patterns and strategies where I'm going to be cheating, lying, manipulating, right? Making things up just in order for me to get that piece of attachment. And again, attachment is not only good or bad, right? Because we hear people have different types of attachment styles, and it's
Yeah.
absolutely fine. But the moment you really allow yourself to go into a deeper connection with someone that you can trust within a sacred space, I would say, that for me actually is what took me out of my comfort zone.
Um,
Not the fact that I, you know, have done 12 methods and whatever meditations and, prayers and gratitude, whatever.
yeah.
Those help. But only the fact that I had a sacred space where I could have been literally myself with
Yeah.
all the shit that I have, right? Yet again, I have been welcomed and contained with all my pain and suffering and shortcomings, right? Because we all have brilliance inside of us, but also we have a lot of shortcomings. And guess what? Our mind tends to focus on what our shortcomings are. Oh, I'm not good at that. Of course, you're not good at that. What are you good at?
Yeah.
You keep focusing on that.
Agreed. And to conclude, it's the quality of relationship that determines the level of transformation. So
Exactly.
at least that's what I found in the people I work with, and even the
Doesn't
relationship
it?
I have with myself.
It's actually so brilliant that you said that, because the inner connection where we trust each other, accept each other for who we are, isn't it that the fear, it vanishes? You're all of a sudden, right, careless about whatever. You don't even care about what fears, because you don't have them. So whatever you don't have, you can't express, can you?
Exactly. So more meaningful relationships
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
everybody. So then have a good night, everyone. And if you have any questions and
Who's
curiosities, text us.
who's everyone? I haven't even looked. Is there
I
anyone
haven't even looked.
there?
I got connected to
Oh,
you, and if there is
I was
someone.
I was about to to end the meeting.
Yeah, there is 2 comments though.
Okay. Any questions though? Because I can't see anything. So.
No, there is no
Okay.
questions at the moment. So yeah, thank you for those that viewed the live with us, and those who will look at it later. If you have any questions, just let us know. We did enjoy this conversation.
Yeah, thank you. I told you I enjoy talking to you, and you know, if we have some, you know, from our perception, some meaningful conversation that would anyone could take value from it, then why not having it online at
it's
times?
live. Well, I mean, it's public. I wanted to say I said it's live, so there you go.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you,
Okay.
Christian, for the conversation. We'll be seeing each other
Thank you,
soon
Saba.
in this
I
format.
hope so. Yeah, I hope so as well. Have a good night.
You too.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.